Happy morning, dear children. I welcome you all to the recap session of English. Okay, today, fourth chapter, what we are going to learn? Yes, the ashes that made trees bloom. Your duty is to frame all one mark questions in this lesson. The ashes that made trees bloom. Okay, and when you are coming to poem, you write the author name and the one mark question, right? In the good old days of daimyos, there lived an old couple whose only pet was a little dog, having no children. They loved it as though it were a baby. So daimyos, what is the meaning of daimyos? You check in your book and frame one mark question on that also as a one mark question, right? And they loved the dog as their own baby, right? An old dame loved it as though it were a baby. The old dame made it a cushion of blue crepe. So, what is a cushion made of? Blue crepe. And at the mealtime, Muko, for that was its name. So, what is the name of the pet dog? Muko. Would sit on it as snug as any cat. Snug is comfortable. Okay, felt the kind people fed the pet with tidbits of fish from their own chopsticks and all the boiled rice it wanted. So what they give? Tidbits of fish and boiled rice, their own chopstick. They treated the dumb creature, loved its protectors like a being with the soul. So they treated dumb in the sense they cannot talk. Dumb creature as their own soul. The old man, being a rice farmer, went daily with hoe or spade into the fields, working hard from morning till Tinto Sama. So till the sunset, right? Every day the dog followed him to work, never once harming the white heron that walked in the footstep of the old man to pick up the worms. For the old fellow was patient and kind to everything that had life and often turned up a sod on purpose to give food to the birds. Sod is the grasses, right? One day the dog came running to him, putting his paws against his leg and motioning with his head to some spot behind. So the dog is calling the master. The old man at first thought his pet was only playing and did not mind it. But the dog kept on whining and running to and fro. To and fro is towards and backwards. To and fro some minutes. Then the old man followed the dog a few yards to a place where the animal began a lively scratching. So it is scratching the earth. Thinking it was possibly a buried bone or a bit of fish, the old man struck his hoe in the earth. So, where did the old man struck? Struck the earth. When lo, a pile of gold gleamed before him. So, pile of gold, so much of gold. Can you able to see the picture? Yeah, thus in an hour the old couple were made rich. So, within 1 hour they were rich. The good souls bought a piece of land. So, they bought a new land, made a feast for their friends. They gave treat to their friends and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. As for the dog, they petted him till they nearly smothered him with kindness. Now, in the same village, there lived a wicked old man and his wife, not a bit sensitive and kind. So they were very wicked. They are not at all kind towards animals, who had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever any passed their house. So whenever a dog passed their house, They started kicking and they were scolding all the dogs. Whenever hearing of their neighbors' good luck, so the good old couple got a pile of gold, isn't it? They bought a land and they gave treat to their friends. So hearing all these, they coaxed the dog into their garden. They tried to convince, coax just tried to convince, or they tried to treat the dog in a good manner and set before him bits of fish and other dainties. Dainties is favorite food for the dog, hoping that the dog would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of the cruel pair, would neither eat nor move. So he was sitting as it is, like still. Then they dragged him out of the door. So they got very angry. So they dragged him out of the door, taking a spade and hoe with him. Why they are taking spade and hoe with them? No sooner the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch the ground as if the mighty treasure lay beneath. So actually, they took spade and hoe to dig the earth. What for? To dig the earth. And this dog went near the pine tree and scratched the ground. They thought, really, what happened? Really, treasure was there. Yes, very good. Quick, wife, hand me the spade and hoe, cried the greedy old fool. Cried here, shouted, as he danced with joy. Then the courteous old fellow with a spade and a old crone with a hoe began to dig the earth. But there was nothing but a dead kitten. The smell which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death, and the old man finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. So he killed the dog, then flung him into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. So they what happened to the dog? The dog died. Right? The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet and mourning him as if he had been his own child. Went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs, in which he put fresh flowers. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of flowers. Then tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks, incense sticks. He mourned a great while for over his pet. Mourning is silence, calling him many dear names as if he were alive. So this is a pine tree. Here only the dog was buried. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, cut down the pine tree over my grave and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry and a mill for your bean sauce. Mortar is a big ball, right? So the old man chopped down the tree and cut out of the middle of the trunk a section about 2 feet long. With great labor, partly by fire, partly by the chisel, he scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. He then made a long-handled hammer of wood, such as is used for pounding rice. When New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. This is what rice pastry. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into duff. Duff is like a flour. You'll make your parents will make roti, isn't it? Same way, duff with the duff only they'll make roti, and the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. Right? Soon the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins when the old women took the hand mill and filling it with beans began to grind. The gold dropped like rain. Wow. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. So goody me, cried the old hag as she saw each dripping of sauce turned into yellow gold until in a few minutes the tub under the mill was full of shining mass of gold. So full of gold. So the old couple were rich again, more rich. The next day, the stingy and wicked neighbor came and borrowed the mortar and magic mill. They filled one with boiled rice and other with beans. Now, this is what is a mill. Then the old man began to pound and the women began to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pastry and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. Okay, still more angry at this, they chopped the mill into pieces to use as firewood. Right, this is the first part. And daimyos is wealthy landowners, owners snug is comfortable, being with soul like a human child, turned up is dug up on purpose intentionally, gleamed is shone or glittered. Coaxed is persuaded, dainties is tasty food, covetous, greedy, crone, old women, flung is through carcasses, dead body. So, mortar, big bowl. Pounding, crushing, or grinding. Stingy is miserly. Right? Why did the neighbors kill the dog? The neighbors killed the dog in anger. They have expected the dog to help them to get the treasure, but the dog had rather taken them to a foul smelling dead kitten. Right? So the second one is choose the best answer. As if it was their own baby, lived comfortably and were generous towards their poor neighbors. A pile of gold, all these we saw, and we have to read the content word by word. That is what is more important, right? So now the second part. Okay. Not long after that, the good old man dreamed again, and the spirit of the dog spoke to him, telling him how the wicked people had burned the mill made from the pine tree. Take the ashes of the mill, sprinkle them on the withered trees, and they will bloom again, said the dog spirit. So the second time dog came in the dream. The old man awoke and went at once to his wicked neighbor's house, where he found the miserable old pair sitting at the edge of their square fireplace in the middle of the floor, smoking and spinning. From time to time, they warmed their hands. They warmed their hands like this and feet with the blaze from some bits of the mill. So while behind them lay a pile of broken pieces, the good old man humbly asked for the ashes. Though the covetous couple turned up their noses at him and scolded him as if he were a thief, they let him fill his basket with ashes. Right? So let me stop with this, dear children. Frame all one more question. Okay, we'll see in the next session. Thank